Yin's eyes spun as he stuttered, "Teacher, I'm getting dizzy." After a moment, she calmed herself and called his name. A sheepish look crossed her face. "My apologies. That was my fault. I got a little too excited. I will try to be calmer."
After a pause, she remarked, "It's truly amazing that you succeeded with 𝐿𝐴𝐸, but reaching a high level with it will be difficult."
Facing his expectant gaze, she began to explain.
"It leans too heavily on raw energy. It is incredibly hard to control. It's unsuited for the complex demands of modern magic."
In fact, no one at the Magic Academy could teach you, he countered. Is that so? I think I found a good way.
At this, she had to concede. Of course, 𝐿𝐴𝐸 is a formidable weapon.
Especially since fewer strings means smaller waves, limiting the magic scale.
𝐿𝐴𝐸, with one string, achieves nearly 100% energy conversion. It will certainly be a great help to you. However, about the conditions set by the family's vice head to meet the Academy's requirements in 1 month.
With that said, she was certain of one thing. Using 𝐿𝐴𝐸 to meet those conditions is impossible. He hesitated, about to ask why.
Her eyes glinted with purpose. "Therefore, since you must fulfill the conditions to become a sorcerer, even by training every single day, we must set 𝐿𝐴𝐸 aside and return to the traditional method." Eugen couldn't hold back his tears, but still managed to reply, "Yes." She began her explanation, using magic to demonstrate. 𝐿𝐴𝐸 is a fundamental method that cuts strings to compensate for what's lacking, making it powerful but erratic. The traditional method, in contrast, may be less powerful, but it is incredibly stable.
She then conjured a rhombus of light before him. As she continued, "The method involves bending the strings."
Bending a string over 90 degrees severs its connection, letting each part be used as separate strings. One angle creates 2, a triangle creates 3, and a square makes 4.
As she explained this, her face grew serious. And this is the cruel reality of magic for a sorcerer with only one string. Eugen listened with intense concentration, trying to memorize every single word. She had mentioned before that for a string's vibration to become magic, it needs at least 4 strings to create harmony.
Therefore, for those born with 4 strings, magic is effortless. Even with 2, you can perform magic by creating a single angle. But you need to form a perfect square just to use magic at all.
It's a tremendous injustice. She gave an example. Many mages never even achieve a triangle in their lifetimes, let alone a square.
Even in the Academy's history,
A student completing a square is an extreme rarity.
And yet, Eugene, because you were born with a single string,
You must achieve a perfect square just to begin learning magic. The starting line is that much farther for you. At this,
she looked at the hard facts and admitted, that is why I said becoming a sorcerer was basically impossible for you. But it seems I was wrong. Upon hearing this, Eugen gave a bashful smile as her encouraging voice rang in his ears. Though it may not follow the normal rules, you succeeded in activating 𝐏𝐬𝐬 and using magic on your own. I underestimated your talent, Eugene. She grasped his hand, making a promise. If it's you, you can definitely achieve a square in the time you have left. I will teach you everything I know. He beamed, thanking his teacher profusely. Suddenly, a flash of light burst from his palm as Yin admitted. But I missed the right time to tell you this. The truth is... He cheerfully presented a square of light. I've already achieved a square. Before she could process her shock, he explained. 𝐏𝐬𝐬 showed me the feeling, and when I tried to recall it, it just worked. I can learn magic now, right? Inton was frozen stiff, her eyes wide with disbelief. He called out, "Teacher?" She suddenly let out a shriek of pure excitement, grabbing his small hand the next second to affirm. Of course you can learn magic, Eugen. You are truly a child blessed by the goddess Felon's love. He returned home that day, overjoyed, sitting alone with his chin in his hand, smiling and muttering two words over and over. Magic. Taya, who had appeared beside him, called out, startling him. Little Lord. Seeing he had Yin's attention, he asked, "What are you pondering?" "You've been smiling from ear to ear all day, paying no mind to anyone." The boy stammered an apology, but Yin's eyes were fixed on Jin. By the gods, Jin, I barely recognize you. You look absolutely stunning. The little girl bowed politely. Greetings, little lord. He then glanced at Taya with suspicion. Don't tell me these clothes. But before he could voice his guess, Taya confirmed it. Yes, you guessed correctly. This child is exceptionally bright for her age, so the clan head decided to accept her as a servant, a remarkable feat at 5 years old. Looking from Taya to Jean, Yin was thrilled by this announcement. Really? That's wonderful. She smiled brightly and said, "It is all thanks to you, little lord." Then she added, "The villagers you saved are also recovering well." This news caught him completely off guard. Eugene suddenly recalled Rob's grim words. The village will be raised, and the people will be exiled or forced into penal servitude.
If there's no issue, you can tell the adults. He then asked with concern, "So, what happened to those villagers?"
With his hands behind his back, Taya replied, "The villagers were sentenced to penal labor. Once healthy, they'll work on Bill's farm."
Yin was stunned by this. What? Penal labor? He winked playfully and clarified.
Though the term sounds frightening, the punishment is actually quite merciful.
Farm work is hard, but it's 100 times better than slash and burn agriculture. And the kind Sir Bill has promised to help them adjust.
Hearing this, he felt a wave of relief. Taya continued, "What's more, stories of your bravery have spread throughout the town.
It seems the elders also intend to show their gratitude."
He blurted out with joy. Oh my goodness! With all these wonderful things happening, I'll remember this day for the rest of my life.
Jin chimed in.
Me too. But while they were celebrating, Taya's expression soured. He spoke up suddenly. Little Lord, I hate to mention this while you're in good spirits, but there is one more thing. He looked back and asked, What is it? He announced curtly, The vice head of the family wishes to see you today.
The smile instantly vanished from his lips. The mere thought of his brother's cold voice sent a chill down his spine. Eugen, your impulsive actions during the demon hunt will be discussed after the clan council meeting is over.
Breaking out in a cold sweat, he confirmed, My brother wants to speak with me. Down a very dark corridor, Yin trailed timidly behind him.
Suddenly, his brother turned around, making Yin jump. Hindolf Olivia's piercing eyes stared him down as he spoke.
I thought you were well, but you're trembling. This can happen from a sero deficiency. We can talk later.
You should get more rest, he rushed to explain.
No, it's not that. Yin hesitated, unable to meet his gaze. I was just thinking about being reprimanded. Hindo asked, slightly surprised. Reprimanded?
He stated coldly, Of course, I cannot simply ignore such a reckless act.
Hindo's voice trembled with sincerity. I'm sorry. I'm prepared for it. he asked hopefully. Really? But the spark of joy that had just ignited in his heart was mercilessly extinguished by 𝐿𝐴.
If you weren't only 13 years old. Yin immediately accepted the fault. I am very sorry.
His brother's voice was now perfectly even. Despite your young age, you showed the courage and responsibility of a 𝐿𝐴.
He replied cheerfully, "Thank you, brother." Immediately after, his brother's tone became stern again.
However, a 13-year-old facing an abyss worshipper is not brave. It's reckless. The boy opened his mouth again. I'm sorry. Yin fought to suppress his fear, his eyes welling up with tears as he apologized. But brother, I'm not sure if you are praising me or scolding me. His brother's face darkened. You are not sure?
His deep, serious voice made Yin tremble. I think I understand now. After a moment, 𝐿𝐴 finally spoke. I'm not so sure myself.
With wide eyes, Yin looked up at him, hanging on his every word. I wanted to scold you, but I see you've learned something important.
And I'm proud of that. But I can't just praise you and let this go, or you might take it lightly in the future. His voice softened as he pulled the boy into a hug. So promise me you won't do it again, and I'll consider forgiving you. Touched, Yin's voice broke. His brother smiled, taking his hand to seal the promise.
Yes, I promise I won't cause any more trouble. A faint smile touched 𝐿𝐴's lips. Good. Placing a hand on a door, 𝐿𝐴 prepared to open it. Now, it's my turn to keep a promise. Yin asked, bewildered. A promise? What promise?
Have you already forgotten? The door creaked open, and a blinding light poured out, striking Yin directly. As it did, 𝐿𝐴 explained, I promised that if you qualified to be a mage, I would support you in every way possible. Before him was something so brilliant, so beautiful, he couldn't help but gasp. Looking up at the glowing object, Yin asked, What is that? 𝐿𝐴 explained. It said that Lord Phelan, while creating life and conquering the abyss, shed 2 tears. This is one of the tears of Phelan. Yin looked at his brother, finding it hard to believe. Really? Yin said innocently. I thought that was just a legend. With his arms crossed, his brother replied, matter-of-factly, Of course, there's no way to know if the legend is true for sure.
As he was speaking, Yin reached out to touch the magnificent object.
But there is no doubt this thing possesses immense power, worthy of such a grand name. Even he had to admit its beauty. Yin's eyes were fixed on the light, feeling a strange sense of nostalgic familiarity.
Perhaps it truly is a tear of Lord Phelan, Hindo suddenly said. I'm glad you like it.
This tier of felon is an extremely useful item, especially for a mage with little mana like you. It's known to enhance all magic.
From amplification to recovery, nothing is better than the so-called Lord of Magic.
Hearing this, Yin's voice trembled with a guess. Wait, you're not saying all this because...
But before he could finish, his brother confirmed it. Exactly. The item I'm giving you will be the tier of felon.
Yin was so excited, he shouted, "Really? They called this gem the tier of felon." Whether it was truly a tear from the god Felon remained unknown. But like the legend, it pushed back the abyss.
In fact, this gem became the barrier separating horizon from the chasm.
Worn down over millennia, it lost the mythical power that once protected the West by its mere presence.
And that sacred duty has since fallen to us, the Fivia family. Hindo's last words sent chills down his spine.
However, it still has enough power to protect the capital, acting as its guardian stone.
What am I supposed to do if you give me a guardian stone that's still on duty? Yin screamed at him. Are you insane?
Even if I'm your brother, you can't just carelessly give away something like that, Hindo explained calmly.
What do you mean? Hindo paused mid-sentence, scratching his head. Well, I didn't intend to give you the entire thing.
His voice grew quieter. Besides, how could you even carry something that massive?
What I'm giving you is much smaller. Yin finally understood. Oh, right. Of course. My mistake. A small box appeared in Hindo's hand.
What I'm giving you is this. It was an artifact created by a master craftsman.
Using a fragment of the tier of felon. When I heard you only had a single mana circuit, this was the first thing that came to mind.
As I said, the tier of felon enhances all types of magic.
So there's no item in this world more suited for your situation. Moreover, he hesitated to take it.
Yin asked again, Am I allowed to receive this? I'm not even a proper mage yet.
Hindo smiled encouragingly. Consider it an advance gift. I believe you'll make it in the time you have left. Moved, Yin could only call out to his brother.
Taking the box from his brother's hand, he beamed.
Thank you.
He then made a vow. I will become a mage and live up to your expectations.
On a beautiful day, a glass of water was brought out under the hot sun. The glass was filled to the brim. Yin had struggled with it for a long time, trying to freeze it solid. But looking at the shape before him, he was completely baffled. What is this shape? Tin clapped her hands cheerfully. You finally managed to freeze it.
He wiped away his sweat. Yes, but I'm not sure if I can call this a success. It's hard making ice without water, and it's not the shape I wanted. Looking at his creation, she noted, "It's always like that, at the beginning."
Besides, its shape is influenced by the felon's tear. It will amplify the vibration of the strings.
You will get used to it in time.
To receive a felon's tear as a starting gift, even princes rarely get such a luxury. Then she revealed its price. For a gem this size, it's worth at least 2 castles. Phivia's eyes widened. This tiny thing is worth 2 whole castles.
But she affirmed, "Tiny, you say? It's not easy to find a pure stone of this size."
He gasped in awe. My God, our family is richer than I thought. Yina smiled gently. You must be shocked, not knowing its value, right?
Of course, it's understandable. After all, it's the most precious gem in the world.
He laughed in response. Yes, he recalled someone saying the world's finest gems were piled like mountains in his castle. She then pointed, suggesting they return to discussing magic.
Her hand hovered over the ice as she asked, You may be disappointed with the shape, but your magic was a fantastic success.
The true nature of ice magic isn't the ice itself, but the cold.
Using the surrounding water is nothing to be ashamed of. It's what mages do at a basic level, since you can't create negative energy. You must control your surroundings with your magic to create a sub-zero space.
Therefore, at the beginner level, only those who can control their environment can truly succeed in ice magic.
That is why the academic world highly regards those who have mastered ice magic, rising from the very basics.
As she finished, she astonished him by creating an ice rose in her hand, calling them true mages.
She offered him the rose as a token of congratulations. Congratulations on officially becoming a mage, Eugen.
She held a paper in her hand. Only 2 days were left. For someone so confident in their bet, time was quite tight. But in that moment, memories of the past flooded their minds. When she found he only had a 1-second capacity, she had apologized to Eugen.
1 second means you can't become a mage. But then she saw the determination in his eyes. After all, you have 1 month. Even if you despair, I want you to try with no regrets.
After everything, she acknowledged what he'd overcome. You may think I simply taught you, but this past month, Eugene, I have also learned so much from you. I hope these days continue at the Magic Academy.
With that, she handed him a file. Here, take it. The recommendation letter and certificate. I promised.
He took it with both hands,
his eyes beginning to fill with tears. "Yin, I'm sure you will do well in the entrance exam."
"Teacher," he cried, rushing forward to hug her. "Thank you. Thank you so much." She patted his head, soothing him. "Don't cry." Suddenly, a wicked smile spread across her face. The real beginning of magic starts now. The scene shifts to his home. 𝐏𝐬𝐬 read the recommendation letter, amazed. To become a mage in 1 month, especially with a 1-second disadvantage.
If it were anyone else, I wouldn't believe it, even seeing it with my own eyes.
Yin smiled bashfully. "Please, don't praise me so much." At that moment, his eyes lit up with anticipation.
I'm finally at the same starting line as everyone else. The real journey begins now. His uncle smiled, full of pride. "As always, you are very mature." Eugen then recalled his teacher's words. "Magic is a study with a beginning, but no end."
From a prospective student to a graduate, continue to strive.
Then, Eugen suddenly declared, "No, I'm serious." A hint of hesitation was in his eyes. "But, Uncle, are you really going back to the capital?"
𝐏𝐬𝐬 answered firmly, "Yes, that's right."
I received word from the capital that my patients are piling up, so I must return early. Still, I was lucky to see you become a mage before I left." Hearing this, Eugene's face fell as he replied with a soft yes. Taking a sip of his hot drink, his uncle asked cheerfully, "Why the long face? Are you sad that I'm leaving?" To his surprise, Eugen shook his head frantically, causing his uncle to spray out his drink.
"No," 𝐏𝐬𝐬 explained awkwardly. "That's what I thought. You're no longer a 7-year-old child, and you're too old to miss your uncle." Eugen suddenly said, "I'll go to the capital myself."
He explained with a bright smile, "I'll enter the Magic Academy and go to the capital, so we can meet there any time." His uncle's expression was unreadable, a mix of joy and sorrow. That would truly be a dream come true. Yin asserted, "It's not a dream." As they spoke, Taya suddenly burst in, shouting, "Young master!" He leaned up, questioning, "What is it? What's going on?" Taya replied with a single, dire word. "Catastrophe. The Countess is on her way." And Yin's eyes shot open in shock. "What?" Then his expression shifted to pure joy as he asked for confirmation. "Really? Mother is coming home?" But at the mention of her name, 𝐏𝐬𝐬's face immediately darkened. Scattered, Yin wondered, "Who's that?"
Mother's words had been absolute. "If you've recovered, then crawl your way here." What else could she mean? His uncle seemed to question it himself.
"What?" Tia answered. "I am not sure. It could just be another one of her whims."
Yin asked innocently, "But why is everyone so terrified? It's as if a demon has appeared." He replied with grave honesty, "Because the Countess is far more terrifying than any demon."
At that very moment, 𝐸𝐿ia's brows furrowed into a tight knot.
The scene changes, revealing a place where men hang from crucifixes. A voice echoed, "How unexpected. I never imagined you would be the one to summon us."
The dark sorcerer, lounging on her throne, posed a question. The fall of Phivia. Isn't that what you crave to achieve with your own two hands? Have you had a change of heart?
He answered with conviction, "My heart hasn't changed, only the circumstances have." 𝐿 interjected for him, "The circumstances changed the moment you killed the king."
Do you realize the monumental effort it took to sacrifice thousands without Phivia even noticing?
𝐸𝐿ia let out a cold sneer. A king who was nothing but a 1,000-year-old rotting corpse.
Something so trivial isn't even worth my time to explain. His words ignited the other's fury. Trivial, you say?
The prophet himself witnessed you killing the king. Suddenly, the dark sorcerer's living cushion spoke up.
Hey now, that is enough. She also took the chance to scold the disrespectful one. Then he made the announcement. 𝐏𝐏𝐬𝐬 has returned.
The news sent a shockwave through the room.
What? 𝐏𝐏𝐬𝐬?
𝐿 couldn't hide his disbelief, stammering,
She's here?
But the last time that woman was seen was on the southern islands. How could she? 𝐸𝐿ia replied, I do not know. Perhaps she crossed the sea.
I am not surprised. The problem is that 𝐏𝐏𝐬𝐬 is on her way here.
If we intend to settle everything before the prophesied day, we cannot afford to wait for 𝐏𝐏𝐬𝐬 to come and go as she pleases.
The dark sorcerer heard this and spoke to confirm. So that's why you gathered us. She then posed a dangerous question.
Are you planning to assassinate 𝐏𝐏𝐬𝐬 now? If so, I welcome this opportunity. I have been eager to kill another great hero. After all,
𝐸𝐿ia replied with icy calm, I'm sorry, but you are mistaken. I won't make a foolish gamble that could get 2 or 3 of us killed just to eliminate one person.
We will avoid 𝐏𝐏𝐬𝐬 entirely and launch a surprise attack to destroy the tier of feline.
That is all you need to know. 𝐸𝐿idia declared that all other preparations were complete as planned. All that remains is the execution. 𝐿 confirmed, this means the fated day is finally upon us. The dark sorcerer leaned in with excitement. So when do we move? A sinister grin spread across his face as he answered, tomorrow night.
Meanwhile,
Jin's expression was grim. War. Tia and Jin rushed by, their arms overflowing. Get the fragile items to storage. Move the weapons to the training grounds. The boy stood frozen, observing the controlled chaos around him.
I understand now, he thought. A war has begun. As he stood there, stunned, servants shouted orders. Move that first. Yes, I've got it.
Yin finally spoke up. Tia, what's happening? Why is everyone acting so crazed? Are we being invaded by monsters?
Her face was pale as she answered his question with another. Do you truly need to ask, my lord?
Thinking of that woman's shadow, Tia confirmed. It's worse than any monster. The Countess is coming, remember? He was astounded. Really? This is all because of Mother? She can be a bit intense, but isn't this an overreaction? Tia narrowed her eyes to confirm.
A bit? He hesitated. Maybe a lot. Tia's gaze sharpened. But is that why you came to find me?
To ask about that? You are delaying someone who is extremely busy. Yin stated with innocence. Ah, that's right. I came to ask about this.
He remembered searching for his uncle earlier, only to find his room completely empty. Where did Uncle 𝐿𝐼𝐴 go?
His room was vacant when I checked, Tia recalled. And he would never leave without saying goodbye.
He was expelled, so there was no time for goodbyes. Her words made his eyes go wide. Expelled? Tia quickly slapped a hand over her mouth. No, I mean, that was a slip of the tongue. But Yin understood. His uncle hadn't left for patience. He had been cast out. At the same time, Hindle was drowning in a sea of documents on his desk when a knock broke his concentration.
Come in. Seeing it was Yin, he spoke with a flat, tired voice.
Yin, I don't know what you want to say, but make it brief. As you can see, because of Mother, we're piled high with work, as if preparing for war.
The boy demanded, Brother, is it true? Was Uncle 𝐿𝐼𝐴 really expelled? The only reply was his brother's cold indifference.
Let's change the subject. Does that even matter right now? Yin shouted back, his anger flaring. If it wasn't for Uncle, who knows what would have happened to everyone there? He was determined to follow his brother and force him to tell the truth. He performed a great service. So why was he exiled? How can you call this justice? The punishment is absurd.
Hindo leaned against the bookshelf, his expression deeply troubled. I don't know where you heard that, but there are two things you must understand.
First, Felivia's punishment was decreed by the family council. The verdict was unanimous among the elders and our key vassals.
It cannot be overturned, not even by the head of the family. Before his brother could finish, Eugene pressed him impatiently.
Then what exactly was discussed? What justification was given to punish him instead of reward him?
𝐿𝐴 stopped him, raising 2 fingers before his face. Second, because of our name, Folivia.
At this, he recalled the words of the former patriarch, eldest Folivia. So, when your brother died, you fled to the capital like a common deserter. I thought you had abandoned the way of the sword as well. Returning to the present, 𝐿𝐴 continued his point. He left the family amid his desertion.
So, when the name Idea Folivia came before the council once more,
They could not overlook the crime of him abandoning his family. Eugene, still unconvinced, shot back. So his achievements are ignored, and he's punished for something buried in the past?
Punished for simply running away? 𝐿𝐴 gave his younger brother a sharp look. He began to lecture. Don't be so naive. I've taught you countless times. Why do we hold the title of nobility?
it's because we have a duty to protect. Abandoning that duty is not as simple as merely running away. Eugene bowed his head in defiance. I know, but his anger finally erupted. But what good has being born of Folivia ever done for him? He roared.
He remembered the endless insults Idea had endured since childhood, always living in his father's shadow. What a disappointment, a disgrace to our family. If only you were half the man your brother was. If only it had been you that day instead of him. If only it was your arm that had been severed. As the painful memories surfaced, tears welled in his eyes. He never even had a life of his own.
Everyone looked down on him for not being like his father. They mocked him. They tormented him. But now that he acts bravely to save people, they punish him.
There was no denying the truth in Eugene's words. For a moment, 𝐿𝐴 was speechless.
Eugene pressed on, his voice filled with righteous fury. And the reason is because he couldn't take their torment and left years ago. Seeing this, 𝐿𝐴's expression grew even more troubled.
I was always proud to be a Folivia, but this is not the family I was proud of.
If this is truly the will of the elders, then let me attend the next council meeting.
I will speak to them myself. Suddenly, 𝐿𝐴 raised a third finger. Third, our grandfather, the former patriarch Eldos Folivia, was killed by one of our own.
The words struck Eugene like a physical blow. He gasped, "What?" With a grim face, 𝐿𝐴 continued. Only 3 people know this truth. Myself, as the current head of the family, and the witnesses,
Our mother and father. That's all. Nothing good can come from knowing this. I never wanted to tell you, but I was a fool to think you would let him go otherwise.
For Eugene,
who was closer to his uncle than his own father, this reality was impossible to accept. It can't be. His brother's steady voice cut through his days. 𝐿𝐴 is not as perfect as you think.
Of course. Even so, I refuse to believe he's a monster. I believe it was a mistake, a momentary lapse in an extreme situation.
During the battle, Hindle recounted, a voice cried for help. Save me. But regardless of his reasons, 𝐿𝐴 crossed a line from which there was no return.
Even he himself admitted it back then. This is the second time a Folivia has raised his sword against his own comrade.
An act like that can never be forgiven. At the same time, the dark beasts invaded once again. The soldiers, though terrified, had to march to the front lines to face them. An order rang out across the fortress. All soldiers, this is a full-scale monster invasion. Light the signal fires. Even with the truth laid bare, Eugene refused to accept it. Lies. You're lying, aren't you? How could something like that happen? Hindo's voice was ice cold. The only witnesses, our parents, chose to turn a blind eye.
Father, who always felt guilty, let him escape and covered it up as nothing more than a drunken accident.
It wasn't the wisest choice, as this truth could lead to dire consequences. But one day, you will come to understand our father's heart.
It was impossible. He was utterly drained by the overwhelming revelation. He was so panicked, he began to stutter.
It can't be. Suddenly, he bolted from the room, and Hindo called out in alarm. Eugene, where are you going? Eugene shouted back as he ran.
I'm going to ask him myself. I won't believe a word of it until I hear it from his own mouth. In his haste, he rushed right past Julia without a word. He ignored his brother's frantic calls from behind. Wait! Hindo moved to chase after him, but Julia blocked his path. And where do you think you're going at an hour like this? She asked. Your duty is to the family. Now is not the time for this. Julia's voice suddenly crackled through, a fire signal from the Western Front. Startled, he demanded more details.
Her eyes narrowed as she struggled to speak. Code Red 4. A massive monster invasion. Panic flashed across his face, unable to hide the tension.
Meanwhile, another man bolted from his house, his eyes scanning the sky and ground. It hasn't been long since Uncle left. He must be staying overnight in the village below. If I cut through this forest, I can catch up. But as he raced through the woods, a horde of monsters blocked his path, forcing him to a sudden halt. Facing the demonic swarm, he could only stare wide-eyed, frozen in place. Ilias was just as surprised to see him there. The youngest son of House Fivia. How? At that moment, Yin trembled.
questioning the other figure. An apostle of the abyss. How are you here? He suddenly realized he was inside the 𝐕𝐢𝐷 mansion. Just then, Yin cried out in shock. The assembly bell and the red signal fire. The man realized it was time. Ilias clutched his head, looking deeply troubled.
I know, damn it. This meddling kid always shows up at the worst possible moment, complicating everything.
Though terrified, he began reaching for his weapon. So you're behind the bell. There are too many. I have to create an opening and escape. At that exact moment, a horrifying truth dawned on him. My sword. He gasped, horrified.
That's right. I didn't bring my sword. Yin feigned ignorance, scratching his head. I'll just be leaving then. But the man spoke again. I don't want to harm you. 𝐿𝐷𝐼𝐴 is very fond of you.
But now that things have come to this, I have no other choice. The moment Ilias finished speaking, a demon army surrounded the boy. Kill him. Yin was confused. Why did the boy's face suddenly look so grim?
Did you just say my uncle's name? At the same time, Hindle was galloping towards them on horseback, his face a mask of fury.
You bastards! A monstrous head shrieked. It was truly an astonishing sight.
The signal fire had blazed, and 1,000 elite soldiers were on the move, all within a single hour.
Even the Empire's Golden Legion lacked such discipline. 𝐿𝐷𝐼𝐴 then spoke up, saying it was unfair to compare them to a mere ceremonial troop.
He disagreed slightly, but that very excellence will be their poison this time.
𝐿𝐷𝐼𝐴 smiled, revealing that all forces under the family head's direct command had left the castle.
Now, the only nuisance left is the family council's private guard. I will handle them.
It's been a while since I've paid my respects. Everything was proceeding according to plan. 𝐿𝐷𝐼𝐴 seemed to understand. This was the moment for sweet revenge.
He asked how it felt. The uncle answered nonchalantly. Normal. Nothing special. Back with Eugen, he was closing his eyes, focusing his power. Suddenly, his eyes snapped open. He used 𝐕𝐸𝐴's anti-armor technique, then twisted his wrist.
With that, he effortlessly took down each foe. Next came the 𝐕𝐸𝐴 style 4-second cut, combined with the magic of the flame sword.
Yin gritted his teeth and spat. Apostle of the abyss. The cloaked man was sweating profusely. This is the youngest of the 𝐕𝐸𝐴 clan, the one who was bedridden with illness until recently. Ilias chuckled. Day, is that true? How interesting. 𝐕𝐸𝐴's swordsmanship is truly exquisite, combined with that string-seeing talent. Everything was indeed in the records. Yin was enraged.
You snake-eyed bastard! Why did my uncle's name come from your mouth?
Hearing this, the man grew more amused. So that's what you're most curious about.
The cloaked man interrupted impatiently. Enough chit-chat. The others have begun the invasion. We can't waste any more time.
But Ilias waved him off. No, he's mine. You lead the rest. I won't be joining you. The cloaked man looked ready to argue. What? But Ilias shot him a murderous glare. I said I will handle him. Seeing that, the man could only fall silent and retreat.
Understood. Don't be late. This left Yin drowning in anxiety. Wait. Where are you going?
Ilias, however, was clearly enjoying himself. You shouldn't get distracted in front of villains like us.
With that, he launched a fatal blow. The boy's face went pale, sweat beading on his brow. Is that sword controlled by magic?
Because it's a physical form, cutting the strings is meaningless. A direct hit could shatter my sword. This is quite troublesome for a swordsman. They prepared thoroughly. Yin finally understood. You apostle of the abyss, what are you doing here?
The man levitated into the air, laughing. You're only asking that now? But Apostle of the Abyss isn't entirely wrong. However, I prefer a different title. By the great prophet and his apostles, we have been reborn as the eternal engine. Hearing that, Eugene's brows knitted together. The eternal engine?
Ilias explained. The life granted by felon is limited, but the abyss is eternity itself, from the beginning to the future.
That is why we are called the eternal engine. And Folivia will be the first gift that the Apostle Idia offers to the abyss. Hearing this new information, his face went numb. What? He clenched his jaw, grinding his teeth.
You charged in here, screaming such nonsense. Meanwhile, Ilias remained perfectly composed. If you didn't believe it, why ask? And with a grin, he launched his attack.
Yin managed to parry just in time. His own fighting spirit began to blaze. But Ilias simply raised a hand to his lips in a sinister gesture.
Then, with a single sweeping motion, he was sent flying. The boy coughed in pure shock. Was that a kick?
He could only endure the attack, tumbling across the ground. Ilias stood over him, hands on his hips, brimming with arrogance.
You stormed in here shouting, just to fall for such an obvious deception. Did you think throwing pebbles was all I could do? My magic controls hundreds of tons of rock.
Because of that, your famous Fivian sword techniques and even your precious talismans are utterly useless against me.
Of course,
unless you have an unbreakable sword that can slice through stone. It's no coincidence I was chosen as the vanguard for the Phivian invasion. Hearing this, Yin calmed his heart.
This abyss worshipper, his claims weren't just empty boasts. He was truly powerful.
My swordplay can't penetrate his magic, and I don't have a weapon. But there is still something I can do. He remembered 𝐏𝐬𝐧𝐢𝐻's words. Forget it. He's just trying to shake my resolve with this garbage.
Ilias continued, "You don't seem ready to quit. So what will our little young master use to face the villain now?"
Yin paid his words no mind. I fully expected that my weapon could be destroyed.
The weakness of the 𝐷𝐻𝐻 is that magical backlash damages the blade itself. No matter how fine the sword, it would eventually break.
That very concern gave me a powerful inspiration from ice magic.
If it's a sword of ice, even if it shatters, I can always make another. With that resolved, he declared, I have plenty of swords.
Ilias stared blankly, then burst into laughter. He roared with mockery. For a mage with a single second square, what a waste of talent.
Don't you understand? The fewer seconds you have, the weaker your power. If you had even 2 seconds, you could have formed a true claymore. But with just 1 second, all you can create is a tiny dagger.
This is precisely why a mage's potential is defined by their number of innate seconds. Since you showed me something interesting, I'll show you my full power in return.